Have you ever been driving down the road and all of a sudden one of these lights come on your dashboard? Well, I'm about to show you today what to do if these lights come on and what they actually mean. How's it going, everybody? Fix It French back with another video. In this video today, I'm going to show you how to change the wheel bearing on your car or your vehicle. It's super easy, it's not hard, and I promise you anybody at home with just common tools can do this. So let's get into it. Alright, so first thing we got to do is we got to get to that axle nut. We're going to take it off the axle. This can actually be very difficult for some cars depending on how long it's been on there. What I'm using is a breaker bar, and it won't go with just a breaker bar, so I'm using a cheater bar. It's a long pole, gives a lot of extra leverage, and you can still see how it's not wanting to go, but it finally gives. Next, we're going to need to loosen up the lug nuts, then jack the car up. I already loosened the lug nuts up just for the sake of the time in this video. I didn't show that. Now that we got the tire off, what we need to take off now is the rotor and the calipers. It's real easy. We don't need to actually take off the caliper from the rotor. We can keep them on. There's a bolt down here and a bolt up here. So let's get those off. Now before we actually take the rotor and the caliper off, what we want to do, because that brake line's still on there, and I'm not going to undo it, get something like a bucket or just something that you can rest it on so it's not pulling on that brake line, and it'll just sit nice and tall right there as long as you lean it up against the car. Now we're going to go get our breaker bar again, and we're going to take this axle nut the rest of the way off. My axle nut hasn't been taken off for a long time, so even with the breaker bar, for some reason it doesn't want to come off that easy, but I finally got it off. Now we need to get this hub off. There's 3 bolts on the hub, one right there, one up top, and then the one on the bottom left. They're real easy to take off. Just make sure you get those off, but before you take them off, what we want to do is find the ABS sensor right over here, and we're going to actually pull that thing off. That way we don't have to mess with it, and we're just going to go ahead and unplug it. That way it's out of the way. And let's get these 3 bolts off. Once we finally get these bolts out, you can give a little tug on this, see if it'll come off. Most of the time it won't come off without a hammer or something. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our axle nut, we're going to put it back on the axle, and we're going to make it flush with the end of the axle. As flush as we can get it. And then we're going to take our hammer and we're going to pound this thing in, and mine busted loose pretty easy. And most of the time it won't be that easy depending on how old or how long it's been since you've changed a wheel bearing. Something also to note, when you take this thing off, the ABS sensor will still be back there, so just push the axle in a little bit and it'll come out real easy. Look at this axle, you can see how dirty it is, and then the mount where the actual hub goes on, you can see that it's kind of corroded right there. We're going to take our wire brush and we're going to get that real nice and clean and smooth, try and file it down a little bit. And after that, we're going to get the axle clean too, just so we can put our new hub on and it'll be a nice fit. Alright, looking clean. Looks like we can put our new assembly on. Just a tip, before you put anything new on your car, just inspect it and make sure that it's just like the old one. You don't want to put something else that doesn't belong on your car on. Now it's time to put the axle on. This really isn't hard. You just push the axle back a little bit to get that ABS sensor in. And you also want to make sure the shield is in the right spot and line it up. It's really not that hard. You just got to line it up. Now just plug your ABS sensor, hook it right back up. So now we're just going to do everything in reverse order. Just make sure it's straight, put those bolts in, and we're going to tighten them down. We're going to stagger how we tighten them down. That way they go in as evenly as we can get them. Now that the hub's on, we can take our caliper and our rotor, and we're going to put it on. Remember, there's only 2 bolts holding this on, so when we put them in, we're going to stagger how we tighten them down. Just line it up and we're going to slowly turn each one. Don't strip it, make sure it turns in nice and easy, and then remember to stagger how you tighten it down. Alright, so we're getting close to done. Remove our bucket. We're going to grab our tire and we're going to put it on. Looks good. Now let's put our axle nut back on. I'm going to grab a ratchet and my 33mm socket, and I'm just going to put this down as far as I can get it with the ratchet. Now before you tighten the axle nut all the way, make sure the car's on the ground, that way the tire doesn't spin when you tighten it. Before we do the axle, let's make sure the tire's on secure. Good. Now let's tighten the axle the rest of the way down. Best way to do this is to get a torque wrench, look in your manual and find out what torque your axle nut goes. Mine is 150 pounds, yours might be different. So here's the moment of truth. Car's turned on, and look at that, all the lights are off. Looks great. And that is how you change a wheel bearing. Thank you everybody so much for watching this video. If it helped you at all, if you liked it, please consider subscribing, like, share, and I will see you guys in the next video.